Ambassador Kethvar stood in the center of the great crystal chamber, his blue-scaled hands shaking as he held the datapad. Around him, 12 of the galaxy's most powerful beings sat on floating thrones, their eyes focused on him with cold interest. The Grand Galactic Council had ruled over 1,000 worlds for centuries, and today they would decide the fate of a small blue planet called Earth. The chamber was huge, made from clear crystal that showed the stars beyond. Light from distant, suns painted rainbow colors across the walls. But Kethvar felt no beauty in this place today. He had spent 3 years watching the humans, living among them, learning their ways. What he had discovered terrified him. "Honored Council," Kethvar began, his voice echoing in the vast space. "I have come to give my final report on the species called humans. I must ask you to listen carefully to what I have learned." High Chancellor, Morden shifted on his throne. The large alien had 4 arms and skin like gray stone. His voice rumbled like distant thunder. "Speak quickly, Ambassador. We have many worlds to discuss today. The humans are just one small matter." Kethvar activated his datapad. Images appeared in the air above him, showing scenes from Earth. The humans live on the 3rd planet from their star. They have not yet learned to travel between stars easily. They fight wars among themselves. Their technology seems simple compared to ours. Several council members made dismissive sounds. War Master Thulgarath, whose people had conquered 50 worlds, banged his ceremonial hammer on his throne. "Then why waste our time? Send the fleet, take their world, use their people for labor. This should take no more than a few days." "That is exactly what I feared you would say," Kethvar replied, his voice growing stronger. "You see only what appears on the surface. But I lived among them. I watched them closely. Humans are not what they seem." He changed the images floating above. Now they showed human soldiers in battle, their faces dirty and tired but determined. "Look at this footage from their recent conflicts. See how they fight. When other species face certain death, they surrender. When they are outnumbered 10 to 1, they retreat. But humans do something different." The images showed a human soldier, named Jake Morrison, carrying a wounded friend across a battlefield while enemy fire exploded around them. The man was hit twice but kept running until his friend was safe. Only then did he collapse. "This soldier knew he would probably die," Kethvar explained. "But he went anyway. This is not unusual among humans. It is normal." Chancellor Morden waved one of his 4 hands dismissively. "Foolish bravery. It will make them fight harder. For a short time. But they will still lose." Kethvar showed more images. A human scientist named Dr. Lisa Hayes working in a laboratory, her eyes red from lack of sleep. She had been working for 18 hours straight, trying to solve a problem that could save thousands of lives. Around her, other humans worked just as hard. This woman had not slept for 3 days when this image was taken, Kethvar said. She was trying to create a medicine to save people from a disease. She worked until she found the answer. Then she worked 12 more hours to make sure it was perfect. "So they work hard," said Council Member Vexara, her insect-like head tilting. "Many species work hard when they must. But not like this," Kethvar insisted. He showed images of ordinary humans during disasters. Bob Chen, a shop owner, organizing food distribution after an earthquake. Mary Wilson, a teacher, turning her school into a shelter for homeless families. Pete Davis, a mechanic working for free to fix vehicles for rescue workers. These people were not soldiers or leaders, Kethvar explained. They were ordinary citizens, but when their community faced trouble, they acted like heroes. This happens everywhere among humans, in every crisis. The council members looked bored. Several were checking their own datapads, clearly thinking about other business. Kethvar felt desperation growing in his chest. They were not understanding. He activated new images, showing human history. Battles where small human forces defeated larger enemies through clever tactics. Cities that rebuilt themselves after terrible destruction. Expeditions to dangerous places that other species would never attempt. "Humans have a saying," he told the council. "They say that necessity is the mother of invention. When they face a problem they cannot solve, they do not give up. They find a new way. When they face an enemy they cannot defeat, they do not surrender. They become stronger. He showed images of human space missions. Brave men and women climbing into small metal boxes and shooting themselves into the vacuum of space with primitive rockets. Many died, but others kept trying until they succeeded. "Look at their space program," Kethavar said. They knew it was dangerous. They knew many would die. But they did it anyway because they wanted to reach the stars. This is how humans think. Impossibility is just another problem to solve. War Master Thulgareth stood up, his massive form casting a shadow across the chamber. Enough of this nonsense. One primitive species cannot stand against our combined fleets. We have conquered warrior races that could defeat humans in single combat. We have destroyed civilizations with technology far beyond Earth's capabilities. But none of those species were like humans, Kethavar argued desperately. Other species fight for territory, for resources, for survival. Humans fight for ideas. They fight for each other. They fight because they believe they should fight. Showed the final set of images. Human children in schools, learning about science and art. Human families caring for their elderly and sick. Human communities coming together to help strangers. Human individuals sacrificing themselves for people they had never met. They are the only species I have ever studied that gets stronger when you hurt them, Kethavar said quietly. Pain makes other species careful. Pain makes humans angry. Fear makes other species hide. Fear makes humans fight harder. The chamber fell silent for a moment. Then Chancellor Morden began to laugh, a sound like grinding stone. Other council members joined. "An ambassador," the Chancellor said when the laughter died down. "You have been among these primitives too long. You have started to think like them. One species, no matter how determined, cannot defeat the combined might of the Galactic Council. They have barely 40 space-capable warships," added War Master Thulgareth. "We have over 10,000. Their weapons are chemical explosives and metal projectiles. Ours harness the power of stars. This will not be a war. It will be pest control." Kethavar made one final attempt. "I beg you to reconsider. Find another world to exploit. Leave the humans alone. They are more dangerous than you know." "The decision is made," Chancellor Morden declared. "The human world has resources we need. Their people will serve the greater good of the galaxy. Admiral Vexthai will take the 7th Fleet to Earth. The humans will surrender or be destroyed." As the council members filed out of the chamber discussing other business, Kethavar remained standing alone. He looked up at the stars visible through the crystal walls and wondered if somewhere among them, humans were looking back, unaware that their peaceful days were numbered. He had tried to warn them. He had explained what humans really were underneath their primitive appearance. But the council saw only what they wanted to see. They saw a weak species ripe for conquest. Kethavar feared they would soon learn the difference between a species that could not fight back and a species that would not stop fighting. By then, it would be too late for everyone. 6 months had passed since the council meeting. Now Admiral Vexthai stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching Earth grow larger through the massive view screen. Behind him, 400 alien warships moved in perfect formation. The largest fleet ever assembled by the Galactic Council was about to make contact with humanity. "Signal from the Human Defense Force, Admiral," reported his communications officer. "They are requesting identification and purpose." Vexthai smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. His gray skin gleamed under the bridge lights as he adjusted his ceremonial armor. This would be the easiest conquest of his long career. "Open a channel to all human vessels and their planet," he commanded. "Let them hear the voice of their new masters." On Earth, Captain Roy Parker sat in the command chair of the defense station orbiting the planet. Around him, his crew of 20 humans worked frantically at their stations. Through the viewports, they could see the alien fleet spreading across space like a dark cloud. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission," reported Lieutenant Nancy Bell, her voice tight with fear. "Put it on the main screen," Parker ordered. Admiral Vexthai's image appeared, filling the screen with his alien features. When he spoke, His voice was cold and commanding. "Humans of Earth, I am Admiral Vexthai of the Combined Galactic Fleet. By order of the Grand Council, your species is now under our protection and guidance. You will immediately surrender all military vessels and weapons. 90% of your population will be relocated to work colonies, where you will serve the greater good of the galaxy. Your planet's resources will be harvested for the benefit of all civilized species." Captain Parker felt his hands tighten on the armrests of his chair. Around him, his crew stared at the screen in shocked silence. "You have 1 hour to respond with your complete surrender," the Admiral continued. "Resistance will be met with overwhelming force. This is your only warning." The transmission ended, leaving the human bridge in silence. Parker looked around at his crew, seeing fear and anger in their faces. These were good people, volunteers, who had joined Earth's small defense force to protect their home. None of them had ever expected to face an alien invasion. "Sir, what are your orders?" asked Lieutenant Bell. Parker stood up slowly, thinking of his wife and children back on Earth. He thought of the billions of innocent people who had no idea their world was about to change forever. Then he looked at his crew and saw the same determination in their eyes that he felt in his heart. "Open a channel to the alien fleet," he said quietly. "Channel open, sir." Parker looked directly into the camera, knowing his words would be heard across space. "Admiral, this is Captain Roy Parker of the Earth Defense Force. We have considered your generous offer very carefully." He paused, then smiled grimly. "Earth respectfully declines." The first battle began an hour later. Earth's 43 military ships were small and primitive compared to the alien vessels. Their weapons were simple missiles and energy beams. The alien ships had shields that could stop most human attacks. Captain Sue Williams commanded the USS Freedom, a destroyer with a crew of 80 volunteers. She watched the tactical display as alien fighters swarmed around her ship like angry insects. "Ma'am, shields are down to 30%, reported her weapons officer. "Hull breaches on decks 3 and 7, added the damage control officer. Around them, other human ships were dying. The alien weapons cut through their armor like paper, but the humans kept fighting, their ships dodging and weaving in patterns that confused the alien pilots. "Ma'am, the evacuation transport Mercy is under attack," reported the communications officer. "They have 30,000 civilians aboard." Captain Williams looked at the tactical display. The Mercy was a huge, slow ship filled with families evacuating from the orbital cities. 3 alien cruisers were closing in on it, their weapons charging. "Set course for the enemy cruisers," Williams ordered. "Maximum speed." "Ma'am, we can't fight 3 cruisers," her first officer protested. "We're not going to fight them," Williams replied calmly. "We're going to ram them." The Freedom accelerated toward the alien ships, its engines screaming at maximum power. The alien captain saw what was happening and tried to turn away, but it was too late. "This is for Earth," Captain Williams said into her communicator as her ship struck the lead cruiser. Both ships exploded in a ball of fire and metal. The blast damaged the other 2 cruisers enough that the Mercy escaped with its precious cargo of human lives. By the end of the day, all human military ships were destroyed or disabled. The alien fleet had suffered only light casualties. It should have been a complete victory for the invaders. But Admiral Vexthai felt uneasy as he read the battle reports. The humans had fought differently than any enemy he had faced. They used tactics that made no sense, taking risks that should have been impossible. "Begin landing operations on all major continents," he ordered. "Establish control points in their largest cities. This planet will be pacified within a week." The first alien troops landed in New York City, expecting to find a broken population ready to surrender. Instead, they found empty streets and silent buildings. The humans had vanished like ghosts. In the ruins of a construction site, Tony Martinez crouched with a group of workers. The big man wiped sweat from his forehead as he finished connecting wires to a pile of household chemicals. "You sure this will work?" asked his friend Bill Chen. "My cousin was a demolition expert in the Army," Tony replied. "He taught me a few things. These aliens want to occupy our city. Let's show them how we welcome uninvited guests." The explosion echoed across Manhattan as an alien patrol vehicle disappeared in smoke and flame. From windows and rooftops, more humans opened fire with hunting rifles and improvised weapons. In Tokyo, Computer programmer Helen Kim sat in her hidden basement office, her fingers flying across multiple keyboards. She had been studying the alien communication signals for hours, looking for weaknesses. "Got you," she whispered as she found a way into their network. Within minutes, she was broadcasting resistance coordinates to human fighters across the globe. In Cairo, archaeologist Sam Turner led a group of civilians through ancient tunnel systems beneath the city. His knowledge of underground passages was helping hundreds of people disappear from alien patrols. "The tunnels connect to the old subway system," he explained to the group following him. "From there we can reach the safe zones outside the city." Across Earth, the same pattern repeated. Humans refused to stay defeated. Every alien patrol faced ambushes. Every alien base found its supplies destroyed. Every alien commander discovered that conquering human territory was easy, but holding it was impossible. Field Commander Zaltek stood in his command post overlooking New York Harbor, watching smoke rise from a dozen fires across the city. His troops controlled the major buildings and roads, but the humans seemed to be everywhere else. "Sir, we've lost another supply convoy," reported his aide. "The humans used some kind of explosive device hidden in a trash container." "How many casualties?" Zaltek asked tiredly. 12 dead, 20 wounded. The convoy was completely destroyed. Zaltek looked out at the city that should have been under his control. Somewhere in those buildings, humans were planning their next attack. They fought like no enemy he had ever faced, using the city itself as a weapon. "Send a report to Admiral Vextai," he ordered. "Tell him that we control the ground we stand on, but nothing more. These humans are like water. Strike them and they flow around the blow. Grasp them and they slip away." As night fell over Earth, the alien invaders began to understand that they had made a terrible mistake. They had expected to conquer a primitive species in a few days. Instead, they found themselves fighting an enemy that refused to accept defeat. In hidden shelters around the world, humans gathered around radios and computer screens, sharing information and planning their resistance. They had lost the first battle, but the war was just beginning. And in the darkness between the stars, Ambassador Keithvar sat in his prison cell listening to reports from Earth. His warnings had been ignored, and now the galaxy would pay the price for that arrogance. 2 years had passed since the aliens arrived on Earth. Admiral Vextai believed his forces controlled the planet, but he was learning that controlling human cities was like trying to hold water in his hands. The humans slipped away whenever he thought he had them trapped. Deep beneath the ruins of Chicago, Dr. Amy Foster worked by the light of salvaged alien equipment. Her laboratory was hidden in old subway tunnels, protected by tons of concrete and steel. Around her, a team of 20 scientists studied pieces of alien technology they had captured during raids. "This energy cell is fascinating," Dr. Foster said to her assistant, Jake Miller. She held up a glowing crystal that powered alien weapons. "Their technology is very advanced, but it follows patterns we can understand." Jake wiped grease from his hands after taking apart an alien communication device. "It's like they build everything the same way. Very neat, very organized, very predictable." Dr. Foster smiled grimly. "Predictable is good for us. We don't need to understand how it works perfectly. We just need to make it work for what we want." She showed him a human rifle that had been modified with alien parts. "We took their energy weapon and connected it to our power system. It only works for one shot before it breaks, but that one shot can punch through their armor." In the tunnels beyond the laboratory, other humans worked frantically. They had learned to be quiet, to move quickly, and to disappear at the first sign of alien patrols. The underground had become their world. Above ground, former Air Force pilot Kate Reed crouched on a rooftop, watching alien aircraft patrol the sky. She had been studying their flight patterns for months, learning their habits and weaknesses. "They fly like they're afraid to crash," she muttered to her spotter, Tim Johnson. "Look how they keep safe distances from each other. Look how they avoid flying too low or too fast." Tim nodded, adjusting his binoculars. "Our pilots would never fly so carefully in combat." "Exactly," Kate replied. "They're good pilots, but they want to live through the fight. That's their weakness." She had been training human pilots in captured alien fighters, teaching them tactics that horrified their instructors. Human pilots were willing to take risks that alien pilots would never consider. Remember, she told her students, they expect us to fight like them. When we do something crazy, it confuses them. Confusion gets them killed. The breakthrough came when mechanic Danny Scott made a discovery that changed everything. He was working in a garage beneath Detroit, trying to repair a captured alien weapon that had been damaged in a fight. The power flow is all wrong, Danny muttered, connecting cables from a human car battery to the alien device. But maybe if I reverse the polarity and overload the system. The weapon exploded in a shower of sparks and smoke. When the air cleared, Danny found himself staring at a hole in the concrete wall behind his workbench. Holy cow, he whispered. It worked. He had discovered that alien energy weapons could be overloaded using simple human electrical systems. The technique destroyed the weapon after one shot, but it created a blast powerful enough to destroy alien vehicles. Within weeks, the discovery spread through the human resistance network. Across the globe, mechanics and engineers began building single-use weapons that could kill aliens through their advanced armor. Joe Banks had been a farmer before the invasion. Now he used his knowledge of machinery to build mobile artillery, from tractors and harvesting equipment. His converted farm vehicles could appear from nowhere, fire devastating volleys at alien positions, then disappear into the countryside before retaliation arrived. Farming and fighting aren't so different, he told his crew as they loaded homemade shells into their improvised cannon. You prepare the ground, plant your seeds, and harvest what grows. In the ruins of a school, teacher Mary Collins trained young people in guerrilla warfare tactics. Her students, some barely out of their teens, learned to move silently through destroyed buildings and to strike without warning. The aliens are stronger than us one-on-one, she explained to her class, but we know this city better than they do. We know every tunnel, every rooftop, every hiding place. This is our home, and we're going to take it back. Mechanic Pete Davis ran a workshop where civilian vehicles were converted into armored fighting machines. School buses became troop transports. Delivery trucks became mobile weapons platforms. Even garbage trucks were turned into siege engines that could ram through alien barriers. Every vehicle is a weapon if you think about it right, Pete told his workers as they welded steel plates onto a fire truck. The aliens see a fire truck and think it's harmless. Then we drive it right up to their checkpoint and show them how wrong they are. The aliens found themselves fighting an enemy that learned faster than they could adapt. Every new alien tactic was studied, understood, and countered within weeks. Every piece of alien technology was captured, reverse-engineered, and turned against its creators. Wing Commander Pexelon sat in his flight control center, staring at casualty reports that made no sense. How did we lose 6 fighters to 3 human aircraft? He demanded of his aide. The humans flew directly at our formation, while firing continuously, the aide replied nervously. They rammed 2 of our fighters and forced the others to crash while trying to avoid collision. That's suicide, Pexelon said in disbelief. Yes, sir, but they took more of us with them than we killed of them. The psychological effect on alien troops was devastating. Species that had conquered dozens of worlds reported that humans were unlike any enemy they had ever faced. Alien soldiers began requesting transfers away from Earth duty. Field Commander Zalthek sent increasingly desperate reports to Admiral Vexitai. The humans are not fighting to win territory, he wrote. They are fighting to make us suffer. Every victory costs us more than defeat. My troops are beginning to fear them. The fear was justified. Human raids were becoming bolder and more effective. They struck alien supply depots, communication centers, and troop barracks with weapons that shouldn't have been able to penetrate alien defenses. In the sewers beneath London, resistance leader Carol Wright coordinated attacks across Europe using a network of captured alien communicators. Her people had learned to hack alien frequencies and use their own equipment against them. Strike Team Alpha, hit the fuel depot at dawn, she radioed to her fighters. Strike Team Beta, take out their communication tower, make them blind and deaf. The aliens who had expected to crush humanity within days found themselves locked in a grinding war of attrition. Worse, humans were capturing alien equipment faster than it could be replaced. Dr. Foster's laboratory had grown into an underground factory where human engineers combined their crude but effective techniques with alien technology. They produced weapons and equipment that made alien scientists physically ill to look at, but worked better than the originals. Their engineering is like a beautiful symphony, Dr. Foster explained to her expanded team. Ours is like rock music. Played too loud, it's not pretty, but it gets the job done. Admiral Vexthai stood on his flagship looking down at Earth through the viewscreen. The planet that should have been a quick conquest had become a nightmare. His fleet was trapped in orbit, unable to leave because the humans had captured enough anti-aircraft weapons to shoot down any ship that tried to escape. Sir, we're receiving reports of human raids on supply convoys in the Centauri system, his aide reported nervously. Vexthai turned away from the viewscreen. Somehow, impossibly, the humans had acquired starships and were taking their war beyond Earth. The prey had become predators, and they were hunting across the galaxy. The species that had seemed so primitive 2 years ago had learned to use alien technology better than the aliens themselves, and they were just getting started. 3 years had passed since the aliens first arrived at Earth. The planet that Admiral Vexthai had expected to conquer in days had become his prison. Now something far worse was happening. Human ships were hunting alien vessels in deep space, and they fought like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. Captain Lucy Stone stood on the bridge of the Defiance, the first starship built entirely by human hands. Her ship was ugly by alien standards, a brutal combination of salvaged alien hull plates welded together with human engineering. But it worked, and that was all that mattered. Contact bearing 27 Mark IV, reported her navigator, Frank Wilson. 3 alien supply ships with escort fighters. Lucy smiled grimly. She had been a cargo pilot before the invasion, flying supplies to orbital stations. Now she commanded a warship crewed by farmers, mechanics, teachers, and store clerks, who had learned space combat through desperation and fury. All hands, this is the captain, she announced over the ship's intercom. We have found more aliens who think they own our galaxy. Let's teach them otherwise. Battle stations. On the alien convoy flagship, Navigator Yulhen stared at his sensor, display in confusion. Commander, human ship approaching, but they are not following standard attack patterns. Convoy Commander Sekmar moved to look at the tactical screen. The human ship was accelerating directly toward his formation while broadcasting something on all frequencies. What are they transmitting? He asked. Music, sir. Very loud human music. Sekmar had fought dozens of space battles against civilized opponents. Ships maintained safe distances, exchanged fire in orderly formations, and retreated when damaged. But the human ship was charging straight into his convoy like a mad animal. All ships, prepare for combat, he ordered. Target the human vessel. The Defiance tore through the alien formation like a meteor through clouds. Lucy's crew fired every weapon they had while using their ship as a battering ram. The bridge shook violently as they scraped past an alien cruiser, their improvised armor plates sparking against enemy shields. Hull breach on Deck 3, reported Damage Control Officer Lisa Parker. But the enemy ship is venting atmosphere. I think we tore a hole in their hull. Good, Lucy replied, spinning her ship for another attack run. Let's see how they like fighting someone who doesn't care about dying. The psychological effect on the alien crews was devastating. They had been trained to fight rational enemies, who valued their own lives. Humans seemed to treat their ships like weapons to be thrown at the enemy until something broke. Back on Earth, the resistance had evolved far beyond simple guerrilla warfare. General Pat Morris coordinated global operations from a command bunker hidden beneath the Rocky Mountains. The planet had become a fortress, and every alien landing was met with overwhelming human firepower. Alien dropships detected over Los Angeles, reported Communications Officer Tom Davis. Deploying response teams. The aliens thought they were launching a surprise attack on a lightly defended city. Instead, they flew into a trap that had been months in the making. Hidden missile batteries opened fire from rooftops and parking garages. Anti-aircraft guns emerged from concealed positions in parks and schoolyards. The alien dropships, expecting no significant resistance, were destroyed before they could land their troops. Target destroyed, reported the local commander. No, alien survivors, Our casualties are 0. General Morris nodded grimly. Send word to all resistance cells. The aliens are learning to fear landing on Earth. Soon they will stop trying altogether. The transformation was complete. Earth was no longer occupied territory. It was a military base from which humans launched attacks against alien forces throughout the galaxy. In his flagship orbiting Earth, Admiral Vexthai read reports that filled him with dread. Human technology had advanced at an impossible rate. Their tactics grew more deadly every week. Worst of all, humans were spreading across space faster than his forces could track them. "Sir, we have lost contact with the mining colony at Kepler 442, reported his aide nervously. The last transmission mentioned human raiders. How many ships? Vexthai asked tiredly. Unknown, sir. The transmission was cut off mid-sentence. Vexthai had stopped trying to understand how humans acquired starships so quickly. Their vessels were crude combinations of alien technology and human modifications that should not have worked. But they did work, and they were everywhere. Onda. The bridge of a human raider ship called Vengeance. Captain Mike Turner studied the alien mining operation on the planet below. His crew of 30 volunteers had traveled 12 light years to strike this target. Look at that, he said to his first officer, Sarah Walsh. They have the local population working as slaves in their mines. Sarah's face hardened with anger. Then we're not just raiding anymore. We're liberating. The Vengeance descended toward the planet's surface, broadcasting a message in the local language that human linguists had learned from captured alien databases. People of Kepler 442, this is the human ship Vengeance. We are here to free you from your oppressors. Take cover and prepare to fight back. The aliens on the planet's surface had no idea what was happening. Their sensors showed one small ship approaching, hardly a threat to their heavily defended installation. Then the ship opened fire with weapons that tore through their shields like paper. Human Marines poured out of landing craft, armed with a mixture of human and alien weapons. They fought with a fury that terrified the alien guards, who had never faced an enemy that seemed to enjoy combat. Within hours, the mining operation was destroyed and the local population was free. The humans left behind weapons, medical supplies, and detailed instructions on how to build communication equipment to contact other human forces. Tell your people, Captain Turner said to the local leader before departing, that humans keep their promises. Any species that stands with us will have our protection. Any species that enslaves others will face our wrath. The effect rippled across the galaxy. Enslaved populations began to rebel, hoping for human assistance. Alien garrison forces found themselves fighting on dozens of worlds simultaneously. Ambassador Kethvar, now released from prison as the alien government grew desperate for advisors, provided his assessment to an emergency council meeting. The humans are no longer defending their homeworld, he reported. They are conducting a galaxy-wide campaign of liberation. Every species they free becomes an ally. Every world they visit becomes a source of recruits and resources. High Chancellor Morden, his earlier arrogance replaced by obvious fear, stared at the tactical displays showing human operations across known space. How is this possible, he demanded. 3 years ago they were primitives with chemical rockets. Now they command fleets that threaten our core systems. Because you gave them a reason to become something more, Kethvar replied quietly. Humans excel at learning from their enemies. Every tactic you used against them they studied and improved. Every weapon you deployed they captured and enhanced. Every defeat they suffered taught them lessons they applied to future victories. The reports continued to arrive. Human forces had liberated mining colonies, freed slave worlds, and destroyed alien military installations across 12 star systems. More importantly, they were inspiring other species to fight back. The Rigelians have declared independence, reported one aide. The Centauri colonies have expelled their alien governors. The Vegan systems are requesting human military assistance. Ground Commander Thekanal, recalled from Earth after losing control of entire continents, provided the most disturbing news of all. The humans are not fighting a war of conquest, he told the council. They are fighting a war of justice. Every species they encounter sees them as liberators, not conquerors. This makes them more dangerous than any military force we have ever faced. They are teaching the galaxy to resist us, added Field Marshal Dexton. Everywhere they go, rebellion follows. Our empire is crumbling not because we lack military power, but because our subjects no longer fear us. Admiral Vexthai's final report was the most chilling of all. Human fleet strength now exceeds our own in this sector. Their ships are faster, their weapons more powerful, and their crews more determined than ours. We are no longer the hunters. We have become the prey. Outside the council chamber, alarms began to sound. Human ships had been detected approaching the capital system. The species that had once cowered before alien might was coming to settle the score. The galaxy's former masters prepared to face an enemy they had created through their own arrogance and cruelty. The humans were no longer the frightened primitives who had begged for mercy 3 years ago. They had become something far more dangerous. They had become the galaxy's conscience, and they were coming to collect what was owed. 5 years had passed since Admiral Vexthai first appeared at Earth with his grand fleet. Now the Grand Galactic Council sat in emergency session aboard their most heavily defended station, deep in the heart of their empire. Half of their member species had already withdrawn from the Alliance. Entire sectors of space flew human flags or belonged to species allied with humanity. High Chancellor Morden looked older and more tired than his 1,000 years of age. His forearms shook as he activated the holographic display showing the current galactic situation. Red zones marked human-controlled space. Yellow zones showed rebellious territories inspired by human liberation campaigns. Green zones, representing loyal council space, had shrunk to less than 30% of the galaxy. The human fleet now numbers over 3,000 ships, Morden announced to the remaining council members. They have established colonies on 87 worlds. Their technology matches or exceeds our own, and their tactics remain completely unpredictable. The display showed footage from recent battles where human forces had defeated much larger alien fleets. Human ships moved in, chaotic formations that confused enemy targeting systems. They used ramming attacks, suicide runs, and boarding actions that no civilized species would attempt. "How do we fight an enemy that treats death as just another weapon?" asked War Master Thulgareth, his voice hollow with defeat. The answer came from space itself as alarms began blaring throughout the station. Admiral Rick Taylor's human fleet had arrived at the edge of the system, broadcasting a message on all frequencies. Admiral Taylor stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Retribution. The massive vessel was a testament to human engineering, combining the best alien technology with human innovation. Around him, his crew worked with the calm efficiency of people who had been fighting impossible odds for years. "This is Admiral Rick Taylor of the Human Liberation Fleet," he announced, his words transmitted across the galaxy. "To the remaining members of the so-called Grand Galactic Council, I bring terms for your surrender." In the council chamber, the alien leaders listened in stunned silence as their former victims dictated terms to them. First, all council forces will immediately withdraw from human-settled worlds and the territories of our allies. Second, reparations will be paid for the damage done to Earth and the billions of lives lost during your invasion. Third, any species currently enslaved by council members will be granted immediate freedom. Admiral Taylor paused, letting his words sink in across the galaxy. "Most importantly, you will never again threaten humanity or our allies. We have learned what happens when peaceful species trust your promises of protection. The galaxy will not make that mistake again." The transmission ended, leaving the council in terrified silence. Outside their station, human ships waited with weapons powered but not yet firing. The message was clear: surrender or face destruction. Ambassador Kethvar, now serving as an advisor to the desperate council, stood to address his former colleagues. "One final time. I warned you about the humans 5 years ago," he said quietly. "I told you they were dangerous when trapped on one primitive world. Now they command the most powerful fleet in galactic history, and they have the moral authority that comes from fighting for justice rather than conquest." He activated a display showing human colonies across the galaxy. Each world showed signs of prosperity and freedom that contrasted sharply with the oppressive council territories. Look at the worlds they have liberated, Kethvar continued. Former slaves now govern themselves. Resources are shared fairly among the population. Species that were enemies for centuries now work together under human protection. War Master Thulgurith slammed his ceremonial hammer on the table. They are primitives who got lucky. Once we reorganize our forces— With what forces? Kethvar interrupted. Half your species have declared independence. Your remaining fleets are scattered across the galaxy, hiding from human raiders. Your economy depends on slave labor that no longer exists because the humans have freed most of your workers. The truth was undeniable. The council that had ruled the galaxy for centuries was dying, brought down by a species they had considered beneath notice. On Earth, President Carol White addressed a planet that bore little resemblance to the world the aliens had invaded 5 years earlier. Cities rebuilt with human-alien hybrid technology rose toward the sky. Orbital defense platforms, built from captured alien ships, protected the planet that had become the unofficial capital of the free galaxy. My fellow humans and our allies throughout the galaxy, President White began, her words transmitted to billions of listeners across hundreds of worlds. Today marks the end of an era of oppression and the beginning of a new age of freedom. The crowd gathered in the rebuilt New York City cheered as she continued. We did not choose this war, but we finished it. When they threatened our families, we became soldiers. When they tried to enslave us, we became liberators. When they thought they were the apex predators of the galaxy, we showed them what true predators look like. Behind her, representatives from dozens of species stood together, former enemies united by their shared experience of human protection and friendship. To any species still under council oppression, help is coming. To any species considering aggression against peaceful worlds, remember what happened to those who last threatened humanity. We are not conquerors, but we are protectors, and we never forget our friends or forgive our enemies. Back at the council station, the surrender negotiations had begun. Admiral Taylor sat across from the broken remnants of galactic leadership, his terms simple and non-negotiable. Your empire is finished, he told them calmly. The question now is whether it ends with dignity or destruction. Surrender peacefully, and your people will be treated fairly. Continue to resist, and we will hunt you across the galaxy until every last council ship is space debris. High Chancellor Morden signed the surrender documents with shaking hands. The Grand Galactic Council, ruler of 1,000 worlds for 1,000 years, officially ceased to exist. How? He asked Admiral Taylor as he set down the signing stylus. How did primitives defeat the greatest military force in galactic history? Admiral Taylor smiled grimly. You made 3 mistakes. First, you underestimated what humans become when you threaten their children. Second, you assumed that superior technology makes you superior fighters. Third, you forgot that the strongest weapon in the galaxy is not a gun or a bomb. It's an idea. What idea? Morden whispered. That every intelligent being deserves freedom, and that some things are worth dying for. Within months, the former council territories had reorganized into independent federations. Species that had been enemies for millennia learned to cooperate under human mediation. Trade flourished between worlds that had been cut off from each other by council restrictions. The humans established exploration fleets that pushed into unknown regions of the galaxy, always ready to offer friendship to new species while making it clear that aggression would be met with overwhelming force. In the depths of space, human ships patrolled trade routes and protected peaceful worlds from pirates and raiders. The species that had once been considered primitive had become the galaxy's guardians, sleeping lightly and dreaming of the stars yet to be explored. Children across hundreds of worlds grew up hearing stories of the humans who had come from a small blue planet to free the galaxy from tyranny. They learned that freedom was not given by the strong to the weak, but taken by the brave from the cruel. The galaxy's new apex predators had proven that the greatest strength was not in the ability to destroy but in the willingness to protect. And among the stars, humanity continued to spread its simple but revolutionary message. that all beings had the right to be free, and that humans would fight to defend that right until the last star burned out. The Council had thought they were conquering primitives. Instead, they had awakened something far more dangerous than any weapon or warship. They had awakened humanity's sense of justice, and the galaxy would never be the same.